There's a quiet frustration that doesn't get talked about enough. You know you're supposed to eat more protein. Your doctor may have mentioned it, or maybe you read it somewhere. Protein for strength, protein for muscle, protein to stay independent as you get older. The message is everywhere. But what nobody explains is why it's so hard to actually follow through, and why, for many people in their 60s and 70s, the usual advice simply doesn't work anymore. Chicken breast is fine in theory. So is a big piece of steak. But if you've noticed that chewing tough meat has become uncomfortable, or that your appetite isn't what it used to be, or that you finish half a portion and feel done, you're not doing anything wrong. Your body has genuinely changed. And the protein sources that worked well at 40 may not be serving you the same way now. Here's what matters. Muscle loss accelerates with age. After 70, the body can lose muscle at a faster rate than at any previous decade. This isn't just about appearance or strength, though both matter. Muscle supports balance, bone health, metabolism, and the ability to recover from illness or a fall. Without enough protein to maintain it, that loss speeds up. So the question isn't whether protein matters. It's whether you're actually absorbing enough of it and from the right sources. That's where most of the conversation stops, and that's exactly where it should begin. Before going further, nothing in this video is medical advice. It's educational information meant to support a conversation with your doctor, not replace it. If you have kidney concerns or specific dietary restrictions, always check with your healthcare provider before making changes. Now, let's talk about what's actually going on in the body and why something as small as a tablespoon of seeds might do more for your muscle health than a full serving of dry chicken ever could. When protein is eaten, the digestive system breaks it down into amino acids, the raw materials the body uses to repair and build muscle tissue. This process requires stomach acid, enzymes, and a functioning digestive lining. All three of these become less efficient over time. Stomach acid production tends to decline with age. Enzyme output can slow. And the lining of the gut, which absorbs nutrients, becomes less responsive in some individuals. What this means practically is that even if you eat a reasonable amount of protein, you may not be absorbing it fully. A piece of chicken that sits in your stomach uncomfortably, or meat that feels heavy long after a meal, can be a signal that digestion is working harder than it used to. Dense, fibrous animal proteins require more digestive work. They take longer to break down. They can be difficult to chew thoroughly, which matters more than most people realize, because digestion begins in the mouth. If chewing is incomplete, the rest of the process is already at a disadvantage. This isn't a reason to give up on animal protein entirely, but it is a reason to expand the conversation, because there are protein sources that the body can absorb more readily. Sources that also happen to carry a range of other nutrients that support muscle maintenance in older adults. Imagine someone named Mary. She's 73, lives alone, and has a good routine. She tries to eat well, but she's noticed that cooking a full chicken dinner feels like more effort than it used to, that she often doesn't finish it, and that some days she just makes toast because it's easier. She's not unhealthy. She's just navigating the quiet, unglamorous reality of appetite changes that come with getting older. Mary's situation is common, and the solution she eventually found wasn't complicated. It was a small container of hemp seeds sitting next to her yogurt in the refrigerator. 3 tablespoons of hemp seeds contain around 10 grams of protein. That's a meaningful amount, comparable to what you'd find in a moderate serving of chicken. But the protein in hemp seeds is structured differently. It's softer, easier to digest, and contains all 9 essential amino acids, which is relatively rare in plant-based foods. It requires no cooking, no chewing effort, and no preparation beyond opening a container. She started adding a spoonful to her morning yogurt, then to her soup at lunch, then into a smoothie when she didn't feel like eating much. Over time, she was getting more protein each day than she had in years, without forcing herself through a meal she didn't want. That may sound small, but for muscle maintenance in older adults, consistency matters more than any single large meal. Muscles respond better to steady protein spread throughout the day than to one heavy serving eaten at dinner. Hemp seeds are worth understanding in more detail because the protein isn't the only reason they're useful. They're a natural source of magnesium, which plays a role in muscle contraction and nerve function. Many older adults have low magnesium levels without knowing it, and low magnesium can contribute to muscle cramping, weakness, and fatigue. They also contain iron, zinc, and phosphorus, and they're one of the few food sources that provide a favorable ratio of omega-3 to omega-6 fatty acids, which may support inflammation management in the body. Inflammation is worth mentioning here because it plays a larger role in muscle loss than most people expect. Chronic, low-grade inflammation, the kind that doesn't feel dramatic but runs quietly in the background, can interfere with the body's ability to build and maintain muscle, even when protein intake seems adequate. Omega-3 fatty acids, including those found in hemp seeds, may help support a more balanced inflammatory response. This is why the comparison to chicken breast is more meaningful than it first appears. Chicken offers protein. Hemp seeds offer protein plus healthy fats plus minerals, in a form that's easier to digest and easier to consume consistently. Chia seeds carry a different but equally useful profile. They're well known for their fiber content, but the protein and mineral content deserve more attention than they typically receive. 2 tablespoons of chia seeds contain about 5 grams of protein, along with calcium, phosphorus, and manganese, nutrients that support bone density alongside muscle health. Bone and muscle decline often happen in parallel, and supporting both through diet is a sensible approach. Chia seeds are also uniquely practical. Soaked in water or milk overnight, they form a soft, gel-like texture that requires no chewing effort whatsoever. For anyone dealing with dental issues, dry mouth, or difficulty with tough textures, this makes them a genuinely accessible option. They can go into oatmeal, yogurt, soups, smoothies, or overnight preparations that are ready in the morning with no effort at all. One thing worth noting: chia seeds are high in fiber, which means adding too much too quickly can cause digestive discomfort. Starting with 1 tablespoon and increasing gradually is a sensible approach for most people. There's a common misunderstanding worth addressing here. Some people assume plant proteins are inferior to animal proteins because of how amino acid profiles are described in older nutrition literature. The concept of incomplete protein, the idea that plants lack certain amino acids, is technically true but often misapplied. Hemp seeds, as mentioned, contain all 9 essential amino acids. And even seeds that don't provide a complete profile on their own can be combined easily with other foods throughout the day: yogurt, eggs, legumes, or grains, to cover the full range without requiring any elaborate planning. The more important consideration isn't completeness of amino acids in any single food. It's whether you're eating enough protein overall, and whether your body is actually absorbing it. For many older adults, an easily digestible, consistently eaten seed protein may outperform a harder-to-eat, poorly absorbed animal protein in terms of what the body actually receives and uses. There's also a practical consideration that rarely gets discussed in health content: meal fatigue. When the same foods are recommended over and over, more chicken, more fish, more eggs, some people begin to quietly tune out. Not because the advice is wrong, but because it stops feeling achievable. If you're not hungry, if cooking feels like work, if certain textures have become unpleasant, hearing "eat more protein" for the 10th time isn't motivating. It's exhausting. Seeds offer something different. low effort, high consistency, and genuine nutritional value. A tablespoon in yogurt takes 3 seconds. A spoonful stirred into soup adds almost nothing to the preparation process. A scoop blended into a smoothie disappears completely. These are changes that don't require motivation or meal planning or willpower. They just become part of what's already there. And that consistency, that steady, low-drama accumulation of protein and nutrients over days and weeks, is exactly what the body needs to maintain muscle at this stage of life. If you're thinking about trying this, starting simple is the best approach. Hemp seeds can go on top of yogurt, mixed into oatmeal, blended into a smoothie, or stirred into soups and stews toward the end of cooking. They have a mild, slightly nutty flavor that doesn't change the taste of most foods noticeably. Look for hulled hemp seeds, sometimes called hemp hearts. They're softer and easier to incorporate than the whole seed. Chia seeds work best when they've had time to absorb liquid. Soaking them overnight in milk or a yogurt mixture creates a texture that's smooth, soft, and genuinely pleasant. They can also be stirred directly into warm oatmeal or soup, where they'll absorb liquid and soften quickly. Both can be found in most grocery stores, often in the natural foods or grain section. They store well at room temperature for several months, and a small bag tends to last a long time, since a few tablespoons per day is all that's needed. The goal isn't to overhaul your diet. It's to find a few small, sustainable additions that give your body what it needs to stay strong, without making eating feel like a chore. Muscle doesn't disappear overnight. It responds to what you do consistently. And consistent, well-absorbed protein, even in modest amounts, even from a quiet little seed in a jar on your counter, can make a real difference in how your body feels and functions over time. You deserve to feel capable and strong, not because you're working hard at it every day, but because you found something simple that works. If this was helpful, consider subscribing to the channel for more practical health content made specifically for this stage of life. And if you've tried hemp seeds or chia seeds, or if you have questions about protein and muscle health, leave a comment below. Those conversations matter, and they help shape what gets covered next.